as free as the wind blows.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. It's Bornfree here. I'm of course here with Velociraptor. This week we are still nameless. I'm really sorry about that, but we have been busy. I've been busy making, recording interviews from the King of New York and spent 30 hours straight editing them. And Velociraptor was getting drunk at Mardi Gras. And
I drank one evening and I didn't drink that much. I was more sampling the culture of New Orleans.
okay, all right.
So not getting drunk yet. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So we haven't picked a name yet, but we are absolutely blown away. There's so many amazing names so far. They're like so. I've been laughing at a lot of them. Some of them are just so creative. It's brilliant. And so we'll probably bring it down to a top 5 and then a winner, I guess. So we're nameless this week. Next thing I wanted to let you guys know is that I'm investing in some production equipment to bring this show up so that we are able to do things like invite guests and stream some Street Fighter and all those fun things. The big topic this week, we're going to do one topic this week, and the big topic this week is ELEAGUE, right? So everybody's been talking about ELEAGUE. It's a very interesting topic because it's incredibly exciting, but there's a little bit of controversy surrounding it as well. So why don't you tell us what ELEAGUE is, John?
Yeah, so ELEAGUE is this pretty big Street Fighter V event. I believe it's $250,000 up for grabs. And I'm not sure whether that goes to the first place finisher or it's spread out through the top 8, but it's a lot of money nonetheless. It's like a life-changing amount of money for someone in the FGC. And it's going to be this actually fairly drawn-out event. I think there are 3 different phases to it, but it's a 32-player invitational. So they're getting 32 Street Fighter players from all over the place, and they're playing through these 3 different events where it's there's 32, and then it's down to like I think like 16, and then it gets down to like 8, and then they all battle it out in the top 8, and it's gonna be exciting.
Right, so ELEAGUE is on TBS, which so it's going to reach not just your hardcore FGC, it's going to reach like hopefully a really large audience, right?
Well, even more than like ESPN2 for Capcom Cup, because I mean it's great we made it onto television for that, but at the same time it's ESPN2. Not everybody's going to be watching that, but TBS, that's like that's very, very mainstream. Anyone could be watching that. So that's exciting in and of its own right.
So you've got all these people that are going to be tuning in and watching. It's incredibly exciting for the players. Like all of those players, I'm so happy for them. They all deserve to be there. And then of course, like I think there's the TBS marketing money as well, and whatever creativity they can come up with. It's not Capcom. It's not Capcom's budget or lack of budget. It's there's going to be TBS are going to want this. It's not just Capcom who are going to want this to be a success. It's going to be a big group effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of really, really amazing positives about it. How are these players picked, right? So we've got 32 players. How are they picked?
Okay, so from my understanding, it is we're going to have 16 players chosen by Capcom, so that Capcom just goes on their Twitter or Facebook or what have you, sends them an email and says, hey, you've been chosen, come play in this event. There's $250K up for grabs. We'll see you there. And then there are 16 other players that qualified because they were in the top 16 of last year's Capcom Cup. I'm not certain that every single top 16 player has responded yes. I don't think like Xiao Hai is in the has confirmed that he'll be there. I don't think he will. But to my understanding, that's how this is being chosen. So 16 of the top players from last year's Pro Tour, last year's Capcom Cup, and then 16 players that Capcom gets to just choose, and we don't really know what their motivation is for choosing each one.
So here's the thing, right? And this is where there's a little controversy, I guess. My question is, should there be a last chance qualifier for ELEAGUE? Because in invitationals, invitationals are not of this scale. I don't think have happened yet. You have experience of invitationals in Street Fighter, right? And what normally happens?
Well, okay, so here in Arizona, we have our Topanga-esque event that we do on a yearly basis, where there's an A League, and then there's a B League, and then we also have okay, and those are comprised of uh, people that have been invited by the person that puts on the event, and it's up to that person. It's their prerogative to choose on whatever rubric they want to pick these players. But then there's also a qualifier. We call it the qualifier, where if you weren't picked to be in either A or B league, you can enter this tournament, and if you win it, you win a spot in B league, and then you could potentially then win B league and make it into A league, and then potentially win the whole thing. So technically, it's open to anyone, even if you weren't invited. But every single year, without fail, there is drama as soon as people are announced. Even before people are announced, there's all this discussion. There's a lot of controversy, and people think that so and so should be picked here, picked for A League, picked for B League, and whatnot. And so every time it seems that you have an invitational, there is gonna be argument. There's gonna be drama from the general population. They're gonna say I think differently than whoever picked. And so it's interesting here that there isn't even that alleviation or from having a qualifier on the side that says, even if I didn't pick perfectly as the tournament organizer, at least the correct, if you should have been in, you can go through this channel and you can be in. That's not going to be here at Capcom Cup. At
E-League.
what's it called, E-League.
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be Capcom picking 16, and then it's the 16 from the that are already technically qualified for it.
So there's a bunch of arguments, I think, and I'll get rid of a few of them real quick. One of them is life isn't fair, deal with it. The other one is I think it's unless you're putting up the $250,000, you don't have a say. It's our competition. We'll run it how we want, which is fine, whatever. Again, that goes along with the whole life isn't fair thing. Another argument is actually there was a last chance qualifier, and that was the top 16 people who qualified for Capcom Cup last year. So if you wanted to qualify for this, you should have done it last year in Capcom Cup, right? But I could argue back with that one and say, well, it's season 2 now, and there are new players up and coming, etc., etc. So let's talk about something. Let's just talk about what's going on. Like, if you were going to pick, so before we talk about last chance qualifier, if you were going to pick this 16, so 16 are qualified from CPT, that makes sense. If you were going to pick the remaining 16, what metrics would you use to do that? Because you got essentially a TV show. Let's not forget, this is a TV show, right? It's potentially it's a reality TV show.
Yeah, you're right.
Isn't it?
Yeah, no, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but yes, the number one thing, if you're ESPN here, you are not worried as much. I don't think you're not as much worried as like someone that's like you or I, that's pretty hardcore into the scene. We know who's won the last 10 tournaments. We know who quote unquote deserves to be there based on track records. Their audiences, some of them will know those kind of things, but some of them are just going to be people flipping through TBS, and they're flipping through channels, end up on TBS and say, oh, hey, this is Street Fighter. I played this. Well, maybe I'll watch it for a second. And those guys aren't going to know necessarily who Tokido, who Daigo are, and say like, oh man, those guys should be in over Gutex or whoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to say, why is this interesting? I'm giving you 30 seconds. I better see, and then you get into what makes this interesting to everybody. It's going to be high quality play, or at least flashy play, and it's going to be player to player interaction. It's going to be character diversity, and there are so many little things that go into making this collection of 32 players interesting. And I think if you are ESPN, you want to appeal to the more casual, and perhaps not even Street Fighter based, not even fighting game based. You want to bring in new people. How do you do that? Well, it's not necessarily going to be the strongest players. And I do think that they've covered the strongest players, or at least most of them, with having last year's champions, if you will. But this other half, like, there's been some controversy over who's been picked. And I said, like Gutex or like maybe like Guilty or something like that. People that haven't won big major tournaments, but have names because of their personality, or have names because of they've done decently well, but just not as well as others.
Or they've done amazing things for the FGC.
Yeah.
But I agree with that. Like, there has to be a portion, without a doubt. I absolutely 100. Being a marketing and advertising person, I absolutely 100% agree that there should be a portion of players that And by the way, those two, the players that you talk about, Gutex, Guilty, whoever else, will be looking to win. They are very capable of putting that training in and doing it and winning. But I agree that I think that the emphasis is not just gonna be on the gameplay. So you've got characters, but then you've definitely got this emphasis on you want the emphasis on players, human beings. How are they reacting emotionally? Can they stand up in front of the camera and be engaging? Will they create rivalries? And obviously, that's the bit which I sometimes cringe at, because I hope that it doesn't play out. It really depends on how it's produced. I hope it doesn't play out too much like a reality TV.
Right.
I would hope that they capture some of the more real moments in terms of rivalry, disappointment or excitement popping off and all that sort of stuff. But I 100% agree with. I'm really happy for all of those people that are in there. I just wonder whether it would have been wise to have a last minute, like 2-player last minute qualifier.
I mean, that offers its own amount of intrigue and excitement, to see like these two maybe wild cards come into the mix. Sure, that's fun, and that just isn't the way that ELEAGUE chose to do things. But I do think that with where this conversation is going, inevitably it's going to be that discussion of esports and grassroots in the FGC, and how they're kind of clashing right now. And I mean, if it was a purely grassroots world, you would say, you would probably have a qualifier. But otherwise, if it was an invitational, it would just be the absolute best of the best as far as gameplay goes and as far as tournament results. But
Red Bull are doing this. The Red Bull are doing it. They do the invitational, but they have 2 spots the day before, right? They recognize that at least.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The idealist in me is saying, like, I wish they would. If Shanghai turns down his spot and somebody else turns down their spot, the idealist in me says, throw it out there, do it as an event. It's got that Rocky-esque. To me, I love that. That's what I love. That's the storyline I love. Is like, look who came through, like Brian F or something. A streamer or someone like that. Like an online warrior. Seeing somebody come through, somebody who's done really well in season 2. Because Capcom Cup's season 1. So I have no doubt that all of those players are brilliant players. They all deserve to be there, absolutely. But I just wish they kind of left it open to those last 2.
I mean, it would be cool. I mean, and that kind of comes down to, I guess, more like personal opinion. I agree that I think that qualifiers, last-minute qualifiers, are hype. I think that, like in regular tournaments, death pools are hype. I think almost every tournament should try to do a death pool, but that also has its own, issues and potential problems that come with it. But it seems that in an event like this, if this is indicative of the direction competitive fighting games are going to be going, you want to have I guess we could say a K-Brad-like personality or you want to be a K-Brad-like player as much as you can to
Right.
the strongest degree that you can. You want to have strong enough gameplay, but you want to have an even stronger presence. You want to be entertaining both in the way you play, but also how you conduct yourself on camera, the development of your brand. That's going to be incredibly important if this is an indication of the direction we're going.
Right, yeah, that's the implication. I totally agree. The implication is, for you as a player, if you intend to be a professional Street Fighter player, you either better be coming first all the time, and in the top 16 of Capcom Cup, or you need to build your brand. And I would say the safest bet is to build your brand. That means streaming. That means appearances on YouTube. That means developing your persona. What is your brand? What are you all about? It means interacting with your fans, etc., etc., etc. So I'm glad you said that. And I think that's a good way of wrapping up this section. But I do want to say to everybody who's watching, I want to hear from you guys in the comments. How do you feel about the E-League? Do you think there should be a last chance qualifier? Or is the Capcom Cup it? Is it simply you have to be in the top 16 of the Capcom Cup and that is it? And it's all fair and good and fine. I think we've represented a lot of different points of view, but I'm looking forward to hearing from other people on that one. And I will interact with the comments when I get a moment. You got anything else to say, John?
I'm really appreciating the names that are coming through for our currently nameless FGC talk show. So I want to see those.
I want to talk about my favorites, but I don't want to say them now because people will they'll be all over it. So let's wait till next week, and we'll do that then.
Absolutely. So I just want to see more and more submissions until that time, and hopefully we can find that best one and go with it.
All right. So let's say goodbye. We got to do it simultaneously.
Oh, simultaneously.
Yeah, we have to like salute the people that are watching. All right. See you guys. We're out.